tonight, the class. We want to make sure that we are out in good time. I had another sermon down, but I'm not going to go with that sermon. I'm just going to do Mark chapter 5, starting from verse 24. It's good to see all of you today. Amen. It's good to see all of you.
Amen.
That ain't Lisa over there? Amen. Good to see you. Hallelujah. If you have the word, you can stand. Mark chapter 5, 24 through 34. We just get off the highway, preaching for our brother, Pastor Echols in Quad Cities area. It won't be long today, so we can get to the food. Our dear sister Brittany, and they've been a blessing, so we thank God for her blessing us. Chapter 5. 24 to 34. If you have it, say amen.
Amen.
If you don't have it, say hold up. I gotta learn. Y'all don't say hold up no more. Mark 5, 24, 34. And it reads, so Jesus went with him.
Yes.
A large crowd followed and pressed around him, and a woman was there who was subject to bleeding or had an issue of blood for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors, and it's been all that she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. 27, when she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touched his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. And once Jesus realized the power that had gone from him, he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? Verse 31, you see the people crowding against you. His disciples answered, and yet you asked, who touched me? But Jesus kept looking around to see who had touched him and who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with her, told him the whole truth. He said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be free from your suffering. I want to talk about putting feet to your faith. Putting feet to your faith. Amen. Hallelujah. That sounds good. Behold, I need thee. I need thee. Me now, my Savior, I come to thee. Just sing it with me. I need thee, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior, I come to thee. We're talking about putting feet. Thank you, musicians. Putting feet to your faith. Brothers and sisters, there was a movie in 2006 or 2006 that was called Just Right that had Common and Queen Latifah in it. At the end of this movie, Common was called Scott McKnight. Smooth brother, played for the New Jersey Nets, and he had a friend in Queen Latifah who he met, and they hit it off as friends pretty good. But he liked her god sister, and she was somewhat of a gold digger, if you will. And one day he got hurt. Upon getting hurt, she didn't want him anymore because she thought his career was over. And then Queen Latifah stepped in to help him, and he lost his girl, he lost his career seemingly, and he was moping and sobbing. And one day Queen Latifah got enough nerve, enough guts to put some ice on him. And when she put some ice on him, he was frustrated and flabbergasted, and she said, "Listen, it's time for you to get up." And so she trained him hard enough till he got back on the basketball court. And he won a championship, I believe, won a playoff series, and he was better than ever. And ultimately, the god sister that really wanted to get back with him, that he wanted to be with, he said, "No, the person that was with me from jump was the one that I would stick with," and that was Queen Latifah in the movie. And so, brothers and sisters, she was saying as a therapist that you can't just sit and die even though you've had a little setback. Brothers and sisters, I want to let you know that even though we have setbacks, we have troubles and trepidations, we have to understand that we ought not let setbacks set us back. But we have to make up in our minds that we're going to have to put our best foot forward with the faith that is on the inside of us. It's time for us to walk out our call. It's time for us to walk out who God has called us to be, and not look at what happened before, but allow that thing not to make lemons in our lives, but to turn those lemons into lemonade. Brothers and sisters, God is calling for us to put feet to our faith. So we see in our text, we see in Mark's gospel, Mark was written by John Mark. Mark was considered a cousin of Barnabas and early traveling companion of Paul, and who was a person who was with the disciple, or with the apostle Paul, and with him on his journey. And so this particular gospel is named after John Mark, or Mark, and he comes to us to give us a picture of the action of Jesus, not just the teaching of Jesus, because in the book of Mark, even though it's a short book, it deals with the power of Jesus. And so we see him walk on water. We see him talk about that people should tread upon serpents, and if they drink anything harmful, it would not hurt them, because this is a book about Jesus in action. And I want to let you know, brothers and sisters, that we serve a Christ. We serve a God who not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk. Amen. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand that our God backs up what he's talking about. Right. How many of you know that some people that got a good bark, but they can't bite worth nothing? Right. Have you ever seen a little poodle and he barks like crazy, but he really ain't going to do nothing? You come up to him, he's going to run from you. But I thank God he's not like fickle friends, but God is someone who not only can talk a good game, but he can walk a good game. He shows this in the text in Mark chapter 5. We see on the front end of Mark chapter 5, we see him dealing with a demonic man. We see him dealing with a man who had a legion of demons on the inside of him. And we see him speak to this man's condition. He speaks to the demons and said, "Come out." And Jesus had so much power that they came out and entered into a herd of pigs, and the pigs drowned. Then we see on the other side of this Mark chapter 5, we see him dealing with Jairus and his daughter. Jairus, his daughter, was 12 years old, and she was sick unto death, and she did die. And so they told Jairus, "Trouble the master no longer, for she is dead." But he tells Jairus, "Only believe, have faith in God." And so he goes up to the daughter, and he touches this daughter, and she's raised to life. And here we are, sandwiched in the middle in our text. We see a woman who had an issue of blood. Somebody shout, issue of blood. Issue of blood. This woman had an issue of blood. She was going through perpetual bleeding. She was going through hemorrhaging. She was losing flow. She was losing her blood flow. And how many of you know that blood represents life? And I want to come to tell you, brothers and sisters, that oftentimes that we feel like we've lost life. We feel like we've lost blood. We feel like we cannot go any further. We feel like we've lost some vigor because life will throw some blows at us. And it makes us feel like we can't go any further. Have you ever felt like that in your life? Where you could not go forward, you could not go beyond where you were because so much life was draining out of you. Your mother and your father may not have gotten along with you, may have problems in your marriage, problems in relationships. People have left you, people have mistreated you and left you for dead, and you feel like life has moved out of you. Well, this woman had an issue of blood, of lifeless, seeming life was coming out of her for 12 long years, if you will, 12 long summers, 12 long winters, 12 long springs, and 12 long falls. This woman had a tough condition. My brothers and my sisters, we have to understand that this woman was jacked up and in a jacked up circumstance, and it seemed like no victory was in sight. And so I'm going to hurry up and go to the circumference of my text and move on out the way and cut across the field because we got to see what Miss Brittany got going. But I want to help you in this text is that this woman, even though she had a tough condition, even though she had a tough circumstance in her life, she heard about Jesus. Brothers and sisters, she heard about Jesus. This woman heard about Jesus. She heard about Jesus. She heard about Jesus. She heard about Jesus. And she said within herself, if I can touch but his clothes, I shall be made whole. Brothers and sisters, there's powerful nuggets in the text right there as I try to help you prophetically, is that the truth of the matter is the reason she ended up coming to Jesus is that she heard about Jesus. And we have a lot of people in our society today, in our world today, that are lifeless. They don't have Jesus. They don't have no one on the inside to tell them to go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Some people are feeling like giving up, committing suicide, and it seems as if there's no life in their life, but there's no hope for their life because nobody is talking about Jesus. And the only place we see people talking about Jesus a lot of times is inside of the church. Now, it should be talked about inside of the church, but the other piece is that even in church, we hear more about who going with who. We hear more about who did what last night, and we don't hear enough about Jesus. But God has called us to be a beacon of hope, a beacon of life, to cry loud and spare not and tell them that Jesus is still the answer for the world today. She heard about Jesus, and because she heard about Jesus, she had some expectation in her heart. She said, if I would touch the hem of his garment, I will be made whole. Now, the reason she could have had some expectation, some great expectation, and I'm going to deal with that in a little bit, but the truth of the matter is sometimes Christ is the last resort. Sometimes Christ is the last resort because we see here that she spent all the money she had. She spent time with the doctors. Some say she spent time with herbalists. And guess what? She did not get better, but she grew worse. Brothers and sisters, so her money was funny. Her change was strange. And then she could not get any better, but grew worse. And sometimes God allows us to go through the worst and not get help by any other place so he can get us to the place where we see Jesus. It could be the hell that you're facing in your life, the hell that you're going through in your life. God is allowing you to go through it so you can ultimately get to Jesus, because some of us have spent too much time going to Jenny, the psychic, Dionne Warwick. We go to everybody else on the telephone and we tell everybody else about our business, and we wonder why our business goes out all over the city. Why? Because you told somebody to not tell somebody who ended up telling somebody who told somebody not to tell nobody, and then the business was all over town and you got not better, but you grew worse. You tried to go to a psychologist. You tried to get the best help, but the truth of the matter is God often allows us to go through hell so we can come to him. Oh, Lord, it's quiet in this Presbyterian church. She heard about Jesus. And one of the things that I want us to understand, give me a little more heat, because my voice is all coming out. I had to preach a little hard this morning. But the truth of the matter is, beloved brothers and sisters, it's time for us to press into Jesus, and not only press into Jesus, but talk about Jesus, because somebody needs Jesus. And I know that's simple in its application, but it's not always done. And God is calling for us to cry and tell somebody that Jesus loves you. Even on your job, you may be able not to do it the way you want to do it, but you got to tell somebody about Jesus. And another way you need to tell somebody about Jesus is through your lifestyle. Somebody shout lifestyle. Somebody need to see Jesus and not only hear Jesus, because when they can see and hear Jesus, they'll want to come to Jesus and say, I want what they got, I want what they got, I want what they got. And if they can do what they're doing in this life, if they got it like that, I want that. And so she heard about Jesus. She heard about Jesus. And because she heard about Jesus, I believe she got some expectations. How many of you are telling somebody about what God has done in your life? How many of you tell somebody about the testimony of God in your life? Brothers and sisters, we are called to give our testimony. We're called to tell somebody that Jesus saved us and he got us out of that mess. Because the truth of the matter is, if we take the Band-Aid off, somebody else can get healed. But too many times we're covering up our wounds and we don't tell nobody what Jesus did for us. But I come to tell you, to declare what Jesus done for you. He made a way out of no way. You want to tell somebody, he brought you out of darkness. He brought you out of that hell mess. He brought you out of that trouble. And when you tell somebody about Jesus, it builds expectations in somebody else's heart. This woman heard about Jesus through the hell that she went through. And could it be that that's why God got you around some people who feel like they're struggling, because they need to see the Jesus on the inside of you? They heard about Jesus, and she got an expectation. She was so expectant of Jesus because she heard about him. She said, I don't even have to touch him, but if I can touch something that's touching him, I'll be made whole. That's some power right there. And if you're in a place, or somebody is in a place where they need Jesus, even if they feel like they can't touch Jesus, they need to be able to get with somebody who can touch Jesus. That's why you got to be careful who you kick it with, because you need somebody in your life that's not going to just tell you only live once, but you need somebody in your life that can touch Jesus, that can get a prayer through. And every now and then you need some friends that got some power that can get a prayer through. You don't need all these raggedy friends that talk about everybody behind their back. You need somebody that knows Jesus. She had expectation. Now, when Jesus passes by, let me ask you something. When you hear about Jesus, when you hear the name Jesus, when you read about Jesus, what kind of expectation do you have in Jesus? Because the truth of the matter is, we hear about Jesus, but we don't expect nothing from Jesus. Could it be because you have condemnation? You feel bad about yourself? But I want you to understand, you need to get some expectation in your spirit. You need to know that you can make it, that you are the head and not the tail. You got to have some expectation that God will do the impossible. Thank you, brother. God will do the impossible. She said, if I would touch the hem of his garment, she knows she will be made whole. And what kind of person do we need in the body of Christ who have some expectation to not only say they got faith, but put some feet on their faith and make up in their mind that they're going to get through the crowd and touch Jesus? Do you have expectation? Her positive thought about Jesus unleashed the power of Jesus. The Bible says in verse 30, Jesus realized at once when she touched him that the virtue was gone. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something as I cut across the field. There are many people that touch Jesus, but not really touching Jesus. Because Jesus said he felt the virtue virtue leave his body. And they asked him in the text, how can you worry about who's touching you when there's so many people that is touching you? Well, he said, no, there is a different type of touch that I feel. There are other people that just ride along with me doing what everybody else doing, but I felt a touch of faith and I felt the power unleashed. And brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. There's a lot of people in the church who say they're with Jesus, who are just about just a part of the crowd, but they don't have no touch with Jesus because they don't really have no faith in Jesus, because they don't live like they have faith in Jesus. And the Bible declares in the text that Jesus said, he said, I felt the virtue, or I felt the power leave my body. Brothers and sisters, this is a declaration to you to not only just be a church member, but be a kingdom member. This is a declaration to you to not only say you love Jesus, but show you love Jesus. This is a declaration that you stand out in the midst of the crowd, because we can all shout and love Jesus when everybody else is doing it. But when you have a real genuine faith in Jesus Christ, it don't always make no sense. It ain't always saying amen when everybody else saying amen. But sometimes when there's no music around, you just say, you can't contain yourself. You say hallelujah even when everybody else is being quiet. You say it and amen. You ain't even waiting for the music to strike up. As soon as your feet hit the sanctuary, you got a faith that says, I don't care if nobody gets up and pumps nobody and primes them. When I think of the goodness of Jesus and all he's done for me, my soul cries out. There's a lot of people in the crowd but ain't touching Jesus. And that's the problem even in the church. We have a lot of people in the crowd but ain't nobody touching Jesus. Are you touching Jesus today? Are you touching Jesus today? And so when he said this, he says, I felt the virtue. I felt the virtue leave me. So he kept looking around to see who touched him. Then the woman, frightened, came to him in verse 33 and told him what she did. Oh God, she did something. Why? Because people may be in the vicinity of Jesus, but everybody ain't touching them. And many say they got Jesus, but don't. In other words, many have a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof. The Lord could be looking for the one who stands out to him, not to the populace in the crowd. So let's get to the 34th verse. It says in verse 34, Jesus said to her, let's go to 33, excuse me, I'm sorry. 33, with many, let's go 32, 32 is better. But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear told him the whole truth. He said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. Be freed from your suffering. So brothers and sisters, we see her suffering. We see her bleeding. We see her lifeless body. But then we see that she heard about Jesus. And when she heard about Jesus, it put some expectation in her heart to make her bust a move. Then when she bust a move, the virtue came out of Jesus because he touched her with a touch of faith, and he asked, who touched me? And she came trembling to him and told him everything that had happened. One of the things that gets the power of God in your life is not only that you touch him, but I see some revelation even right now, is that you are totally honest with him. The Bible declares she told the whole truth. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. When it comes to Jesus Christ, when it comes to the Lord in your life, you got to make sure you not only tell God part of things, but you tell God the whole truth about your life. And too many times we tell everybody else, but he has to understand and know that you trust him. And you don't just trust him with a piece of you, but you got to trust him with all of you and give God all your trouble, all your problems, all your pain. And guess what? When she told him, he told her what did it. That's what I'm trying to get to. I know we got to eat, so that's why I cut across the field. He said, listen, let me tell you what got you healed. Let me tell you what got you delivered. Guess what? Your faith has saved you. Your faith has made you whole. And God is looking for some no-limit soldiers that will make up in their mind that they will walk by faith and not by sight. God is looking for some some people to make up in their mind that they're going to come to Jesus just as they are, and not just read their word, but to live their word. That means they're going to put some faith on the word of God. And God is looking for some people to make up in their mind that they're not just going to sing about Jesus and say, I'm running trying to make 100. 99 and a half won't do. But they're going to make up in their minds that when the rubber meets the road, when 99 seems like that's all you can do, they're going to get an extra win and get some stamina in their life and say, I'm going to keep on running. Say yes. Some of y'all singing, I'm on the battlefield for my Lord. I promised him that I would serve until I die. And I want you to understand that means when you get on the battlefield, you'll say, I'll still serve you. You may be going through hell at home. You may be going through a battle on your job. But you got to put some feet to your faith and say, Lord, if I can feel the heat of your power, if I can get close to you, I'm going to walk this thing out. And God is saying the power that's going to come to your life is when, not just when the music strikes up, but when you're in Hell's Kitchen and you say, no matter what I'm going through, I'm still going to trust you in the midst of my pain. Can I tell you somebody who did it? Guess who did it? Jesus did it. Jesus did it when they were laughing at him. Jesus did it when they was mocking him. He stayed the course. Somebody say he stayed the course. Even when they were spitting on him, even when they was beating him, even when they was beating him beyond recognition, he stayed the course. In other words, he had feet to his faith. He said his will was to do his Father's will. And guess what he did when his Father told him to do? In other words, he had feet with this faith, even in the midst of hell in his life. Come on, give me some transitions. He had faith in his life, even to the point of the cross. They raised him from the ground. Yes, they did. They spit on Jesus. They put a crown of thorns on Jesus. Yes, they did. They riveted his feet. They put nails in his wrists and hands. And then he laid his hand in the locks of his shoulders. Some would say, if you're true king, you might as well save yourself. But he stayed the course and said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He had feet on his faith. Yes, he did. He still had faith, even to the point of death on the cross. Yes, he did. And he still had faith to stay in the grave for 3 days, because he died one day. But guess what? There is. That's not all. That's not how the story ends. Jesus had faith. On the third day morning, he rose again because he trusted his Father. And if Jesus can stay the course, and if he's on the inside of you, you have to have enough faith to come to him, to trust in him, to lean on him, to depend on him. Somebody say, I'm going to put some feet on my faith. And I can see the woman coming in the crowd. I can see her saying to herself, she couldn't tell nobody all the way what was going on, because they considered her unclean. But I see some faith on the inside. Give me some brothers over here. Come on, brothers. What you're wearing, you look like Jesus. Just keep walking. I need some other brothers. Come on, Pastor Clint. Come on, Pastor Clint. Give me some other brothers. I gotta preach this quick today. I just want to tell you to put some feet on your faith. Keep walking. You walk, brother, slow. Walk with the crowd. I can see her in pain. I can see her going through. I can see blood dripping from her body. But she had a determination to keep on going. She could have been trembling. She could have been hurt. But she said, I'm going to keep on going. keep in the direction of Jesus. And what I'm going to do is touch the hem of his garment. And guess what? When she touched Jesus, it didn't take 5 years. All it took was one touch. And some of us haven't been touching Jesus. We've been touching church. We've been touching the preacher. But it's time to touch Jesus. Say yes. Say yes. Jesus. He got all power. Don't make it about what you wear. Don't make it about what you got on. But tell somebody it was Jesus that woke me up this morning. It was Jesus that started me on my way. It was Jesus that saved me. Say yes. God is saying. I'm done. We gotta go. I'm done. We gotta go. Let me give you my points. I had to rush through it. I had a whole nother sermon. He says, when it says called I will, we talk about I will be a worshiper, I will be a prayer warrior, I will put on the new nature, and I will put on my faith. I will wear my faith. I will walk out my faith. God is calling for us to put some feet on our faith. Even in the area of business. Even in the area of our degrees in our lives. He's calling us to bust a move. And take our problems to him and trust him to get us through. Trust him to get us through. It's time to try it all over again. It may not have worked for the last 12 years, the last 3 years, the last 4 years. But God is saying, put some feet to your faith. Maybe you want to give up on your marriage. Maybe you want to give up on your family. It seems lifeless. But put some feet to your faith. Struggling financially, and you saying I don't have enough to pay anything in the offering of tithes. Put some feet to your faith. Put some feet to your faith.
Yes.
Maybe you're ready to give up on the church. You give up on ministry. Give up on your call. God is saying, put some feet to your faith.
Yes, sir.
You may have pain in your body. But as long as you're still here,
Yes, sir.
it ain't over till it's over. Will you trust him? Everybody standing. We're going to get out of here. I'll preach longer next week.